So today in class, we will be painting with Saran Wrap. And I had to learn how to say this because I would be tempted to say Saran Wrap, but it's Saran Wrap, and someone showed me. In using the Saran Wrap, we will be painting a tree. I was actually walking today and looking at all the nice fall scenes and fall colors, and I thought we should paint a tree with the fall colors. So I'll talk a little bit about color and see how beautiful it could be. So by using the Saran Wrap, and I'll show you how to do that, or any kind of plastic bag or a plastic, you can do something like this. So you don't have to paint each individual leaf. But if you don't have Saran Wrap or any kind of plastic, you can use paper towel. And see the paper towel, because it has a little texture on it, it gives a little texture in the tree. So that's another way to do this. So the exercise today is, I'm not sure we'll have time to paint all three, but we'll start with one. Maybe we'll start with this one, and then we'll try also do like a summer tree. And this is more like a spring tree. So this is what we're going to do today. And we'll do this using either Saran Wrap or plastic. And actually, I'm saying Saran Wrap, and what I do have is cling wrap. Cling wrap, Saran Wrap. If you have also, yeah, that's the one that you have. That's good. If you have, there's another one. It's called Press and Seal. That's also kind of like a plastic thing that you can use. If you don't have Saran Wrap at home, but you have like a plastic bag, you can just use a plastic bag and put it in a ball, and that's what we'll be using. It doesn't have to be a brown plastic bag. And if you don't have any of the above, then you can use a paper towel or tissue paper and put it in a ball, and that's what you'll be using. Now, I'm going to stop the recording and give you a few minutes to go and get such item. So I have cut a piece of Saran Wrap, or actually it's called cling wrap, and it's about this big. Maybe it's a foot by a foot, and this is sufficient. And now you have to observe very, very carefully. This is a very technical thing I'm going to do. Put it in a ball. Now the ball must not be too tight. And so when I paint with this, I don't want this to be all really, really tight, because I want some part to be touching the paint and then touching my paper, and some part to leave it blank. And this way, the result will not be a, the paper will not be fully painted, but it will show areas in between the leaves, which is what we want, because in reality, when you look at trees, there are little sky holes that we see. And in this case, those are the places where the paper or the plastic will not be touching. Now, to paint this tree, which is the one that is the fall color tree, maybe I should put it like this. So to paint this tree, the first thing that we are going to do is prepare 3 colors. These 3 colors will be yellow, that's an easy one. And we'll also prepare a red, that's also an easy one, we can see here. And we're going to prepare an orange, which is a mix between the yellow and the red. And when preparing these colors, you want to make sure your colors have a texture that is more like vegetable oil than water. So you want to have a lot of pigment, so that when you paint, when you pick up the pigment with your ball of little Saran Wrap like this, or cling wrap, then it picks up the pigment and then it puts them on the paper. So while preparing your colors, make sure you put a lot of pigment in for each of the colors. And then after we have painted this part, then we'll talk about the tree trunk and the branches. But right now, this is our step that we need to do, is prepare the 3 colors. And if you have something like this, let me show you this. So if you have like something like this with little wells, you want to prepare 3 wells, 1 for the red, 1 for the orange, and 1 for the yellow. When it's time to paint with the Saran Wrap, then you take the color with your brush and spread it here so that you can easily use your Saran Wrap and dip it into the paint and put it on the paper. Okay, if you don't have a surface like this, you only have little wells on your plastic palette, then we'll make do with that, and you'll have to try to be careful not to grab more than 1 color at a time. Just go for that one to paint with it. It will still work. And if you have the deluxe palette like this, then you can use 1 square for each of the 3 colors. So this is dirty, but I have this one, and this one. So that's what I'll do. Alrighty then. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to prepare your colors. And before I stop the recording, I'm going to show you how I prepare my first color. And because I have tubes of colors, then I can put it directly onto here because I'm not restricted to a small space. So I'm going to put a little bit of my yellow into my palette, and using a small brush like this, I'm going to get some water from my bucket here, but I'm making sure that this color here remains very pigmenty and doesn't get too watery. So it has to remain a consistency that's thicker, like heavy cream. Not heavy cream, but let's say half and half. That would be a good consistency. And so therefore, when I pick it up with my plastic, or maybe you're using a paper towel, then it's going to be thick. And when you put it on the paper, it will have a nice consistency, and it will remain dark. So here now I have this, and it's hard to tell, but if I go like this, you can tell it's pretty thick because it doesn't even drip, or hardly, like this. So I'm going to prepare at least this much of each color, and I'm going to stop the recording while preparing the 2 others. So can you see here, I have my red out of the tube, my yellow out of the tube, and the orange is a pretty much in between color between the yellow and the red. So it's an orange that's not too close to the red and not too close to the yellow. So we have 3 distinct colors, and that's what you're supposed to prepare. And once you are ready, let me know, and we'll paint our tree. Now, to paint the tree, we're going to paint the tree right here in the middle. And this is the example. So you see here, the tree is right here in the middle, and then we'll paint one on either side. Now, this first one that we're going to paint is going to be a fall tree using our yellow, our orange, and our red. Now, this is the most technical part of our painting, is to ball the plastic or a paper towel, or it could be a plastic bag, into a little ball that is not too tight. Using this, now you're going to paint, you're going to dip it into the yellow and paint the tree. Now the shape of the tree it's almost like the shape of a pear. almost like this, very close, but there's no little divot on either side here. So it's something like this, fairly easy. If you want to paint at the same time as me, you can, but I will give you time to paint after I'm done. So I suggest you watch first. So I dip my plastic into the yellow and I paint the whole tree with yellow. So starting at the bottom, going to the top, paint the whole tree with yellow. I'm coming back here. I'll make sure I have enough yellow here at the top. And so that's my first step. Now the second step is to paint the orange. But the orange, I will not put orange over the whole tree because I'm going to imagine that the light is coming from this direction and hitting this part of the tree. So this area here, which is yellow, I will not cover it with my orange. So I will cover this part. And so here I go without cleaning my paper, my plastic. I dip it into the orange and I go over my tree with the orange. Then, so this part is yellow only, this part is yellow and orange, and the bottom part here on the right hand side mostly will be what I will paint with the red. So using the same paper, I dip it into my red and I paint down here the red part of the tree. Now you can also go, maybe there's a few little stranglers. So this is my tree. And the one last thing that I haven't talked about, which is the tree trunk, is something that we'll add after. So right now I'm going to give you time to do this part. And I need to also put my paper flat because now it's starting to drip. And then after that, I'll tell you about how to add the tree trunk. All right. So usually to paint the tree trunk, it's better if all of the leaves are already dry. In my case, they're not dry. And so therefore, if I were to paint the tree trunk and the branches, it would bleed into it. So instead, what we will do, what I suggest that we do, we're going to prepare the brown for the tree trunk. And to prepare the brown, I need to prepare a little bit of blue that I will mix with some orange. So you can prepare some blue that you then are going to mix with some orange. So I've prepared some blue. I'm putting it here. And I'm going to get some orange. I don't want to contaminate it. So I'm taking another brush and I'm getting a little bit of this nice orange here that I had prepared before. And I'm putting it in my little well over here with the blue. And when mixing two complementary colors, such as the orange and the blue, gives me nice brown. So nice deep color. It's a little bit on the greenish side. That means that my orange was more yellow than red. If I want it to be a little bit more brown, because in my case, it turned out to be kind of a blue, greenish color, as you can see. I mean, this could work for tree trunk, but if I want it to be a little bit more brown, I'm just going to use a little bit of this red here that I have and prepared and add it to the mix. And now it's turning brown. So once the brown is ready and I can see my leaves are still wet. So what I suggest we do is we're going to start painting the next tree. So we're going to paint one here. And we're going to start this time by painting the tree trunk first. So where is my example? It's here. Put this here. So the tree trunk is something that's quite simple. And the tree trunk is in the middle for a maple tree. And as it goes up, it thins. Every time one branch leaves a tree trunk, the tree trunk reduces inside at the same width of the branch. And that's why when we get to the top, the tree trunk is very thin because of all these branches that have gone, you know, in a different direction. Now, the other characteristic for a maple tree, the branches that takes off, you know, from the tree trunk, they're all pointed upward like this. And I have this other example where you can see a little bit better. See how all the branches, they're all pointed upwards, except maybe those here at the bottom. This is probably a mistake. I don't know who did that. Oh yeah, it's me. But anyway, so the branches, they're all pointed upwards. And in the case of a maple tree, there's quite a few. But we will paint first our tree trunk, then add a few of the branches. And once this is done, we're going to paint our colors for all the leaves on top of the tree trunk. And hopefully by then, the one that we started painting in the middle will be dry. So I'll put my example up here for me. I'm going to put my paper back on my easel, like so. And eventually we will do the tree trunk here. Right now we're doing this one. And to paint the tree trunk, you can use a small brush. It could be a small round brush like this one. It could be a tinier one like this. You could also use one that is a flat brush that has an angle on it like this, or one that is a flat brush that is straight on the top. So there are multiple options. So now using my nice brown that I made, is there any questions on the brown, or did you not succeed in making brown? I think we're all set. Okay, so I'm going to continue. So that tree trunk starts about here. So about an inch above my tape there. And it just goes up. It's fairly straight. Oh, my brush is very small. And so as it goes up, you want to have it go thinner and thinner, because after we've painted the middle part, then we're going to add the branches on either, that goes on either side. So there. So now I have a tree trunk that is, it looks a little funny, a little lonesome, but as I add the branches that go on either side, then it won't look as lonely. So remember, like I said, the branches are supposed to go upward. So they go upward like this. Doesn't have to have that many. Now, if this is a difficult thing for you, you could also use a very technical tool, which is maybe like a little scrap of watercolor paper. And so using this little scrap of watercolor paper, I put a little bit of paint on a flat surface like so. And I'm going to use this little piece of watercolor paper, dip it into my paint, and then I can add my branches like this. Well, my paper is not straight, so I'm going to turn it the other way. My work better. So that's another way to add the branches. You know that they will be very straight if you do it this way. They look a little funny, but nevertheless, that's a good way to add the branches. So you can add some with your brush and add some other ones with this very technical tool, which is like a little piece of scrap watercolor paper. Or you could use a business card or an old credit card that you no longer use. So those are all good tools to paint with. All right, so now, oops, this flew off. Now I have all my branches. On this, they look different on either side because I did some with my brush and some with the little scrap of paper. But I could use my brush if I wanted to and make it a little bit more symmetrical, meaning, but you know, a tree is never symmetrical. But I could add, you know, sometimes it's just hard to make them straight. So that's why a tool like this could help you. There. So now they look a little bit more like they've done they're done on either side. And this is painted very thinly, and so therefore it's pretty much dry in my case. Now I'm going to give you a few like maybe 1 minute to finish your branches. All right, so now we have our branches, and the branches pretty much have the same shape that, you know, the leaves will have. So kind of pointy on top and goes to a fuller, rounder shape at the bottom. Now we're going to paint on top. And I meant to ask you guys, do you want to paint another fall tree? So give me the thumb up if that's what you want, or if you want to do maybe a spring or a summer tree. So Cheryl says yes, and Kathy and Kevin. Any preference either way? Yes for the fall tree. So we have 2, and then Kevin, you haven't voted, but that's okay because we have 2. And then so I think we will do the fall tree. And now I have my paper here that is probably dried up, but just to make sure that it's not too dark to start with, I'm going to dab onto my paper towel. And so therefore now my red is pretty much all gone. And I can use the same paper. I can actually also fold it a little bit like this. And use the same little ball that I used before. You know what? I think maybe my ball could be a little bit bigger. But anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and continue using this. Or maybe I'll increase it in size. So I'm going to use another piece that is bigger and put it on top. So I'll have a bigger piece. This is not what I wanted to do, but oh well. So I'll just put it like this on top of my initial ball. Okay, so now I'm dipping into my yellow like I did before. I'm going to paint this one starting with the yellow. And I'm going to go with the yellow. Now I'm dabbing very lightly this time because I think the first tree that I did, dabbed a lot. And I think maybe I put a little bit more paint than I wanted to. All right, so there we go. So I have all the yellow here. And what's happening is my branches are actually appearing a little bit on my ball, but that's okay. Now the orange. Now remember, the light comes from this direction. So this area of the tree will remain yellow. And then I'm going to put the orange on this section here. So orange, over this section, like so. Oh, nice. A little bit more. Now, if your color is dried up, you can add a little bit of water into it. So there. So now I've added my orange, and using the same paper, I'm going to use my red. The colors have dried up a little bit, but they're still pretty good. So now I'm just going to go like this. Ooh. You know what? I'm going like this because I had too much pigment on my paper. And I'm making sure that I'm putting this nice red at the bottom, but not covering all of the orange. And now the tree trunk and tree branches are appearing through it. So now I have a nice tree, and it has a lot of light here because the light is hitting here, and it's got less and less light as we go down and down here. I mean, even though I painted this like this, I could still add a little bit more of my yellow on top. And before I do that, I'm going to dab my paper towel, and I can use a little bit more of my yellow. And maybe I'll put it a little bit on top. Not too much, just a little. My yellow is kind of dried up, so I'm going to add a little bit of water into this yellow. Yes, now this will work better. And I mean, you can turn your bowl upside down also. Add a little yellow on top. Nice. These are just subtle things that can be done. So now this one looks like this. That one looked like that. They all look different. And that one now is ready to receive the tree trunk. But before we do that, I'm going to give you time to finish your tree. Now, this tree in the middle, we have already painted all the leaves, but we did not put a tree trunk or branches. So when we add the tree trunk, what I will do is I will add a tree trunk here at the bottom. The tree trunk for a maple tree is not that long, so I will make it about equal in size as this one here. And then when I paint the tree trunk going up, I will not make it full. I will paint the tree trunk here at the bottom. Maybe I'm going to skip a section, add a little bit, and another little bit here. Same thing with the branches. I will add a few branches, but it will not necessarily be full. And I'll show you on what I mean on the example. So I can see here the tree trunk at the bottom, but then I didn't really paint the tree trunk here. And here I just indicated one little sliver and then another section, and then I skipped again and put another little piece. Same thing with the branches. So the branch doesn't necessarily go from the tree trunk and is full all the way to the tip. So it's got a little miss here, a little branch. I don't know if you can see that. And then another part of the branch here. So that's what I will do here, and that's what I suggest that you do. So I'm going to show you another one. You can't really see on the camera. Oh yeah, this one here. So this one here in the yellow, this one goes down, and then you can't see it anymore because I didn't paint it. I only painted that part. And when looking at a tree outside, you don't always see the full branch. Sometimes you lose the branch in between the foliage, and that's what we're doing here. So I still have some of my nice brown that I prepared before, so I'm going to use it again. And I'm use this small little brush here. Paint the tree trunk here at the bottom. The tree trunk for a maple tree is not that fat. It's probably a very strong kind of wood. Well, maple wood is very, very hard. So now I have my tree trunk that is at the bottom, and I almost don't need to add anything else. Look at this. It already looks like it's solid. But I will continue to work on my tree trunk. So here I painted the bottom part. Now I'm going to skip it and just add, another little part here. And add another little part here towards the top. And add a few branches, not too many. And the branches are, just parts of branches. You don't have to be full. And you can use the little tool like I showed you before to do these branches, which is a little scrap of watercolor paper. So that could work too. All right, so I've added just enough branches. Maybe a little bit more. To make it look like I have some branches. See? Now, in this tree, there's a lot less branches than here. But this is also very acceptable. So now that I have done the demonstration, I will give you time to add your branches and your tree trunk. So I have prepared my blue, a very light green, and I have prepared my orange, my yellow, and also my red. And we're going to start by painting the sky. To paint the sky, I will first wet my sky, and to paint this, the sky will be like almost, it will be 2/3, the top 2/3 of the paper. So I want to make sure you can see the whole paper. Okay, so let me put the example on display. So this way, if you want to paint along at the same time, you can. If I put it here, you can see it. That's good. Okay. Oops. The tape is no good. The tape is not holding anymore. I think that's good. All right, so this is what we're doing. Starting with my sky. I'm going to paint my sky upside down. So I'm going to paint the bottom 2/3 nice blue. So first I'm wetting my paper. It's water, large brush. Now using a very watery blue, I'm gonna paint my sky. So all the way to here. I just want to have a light color sky. That's what I want. I'm running out of my color. Okay. Okay. Okay, so this is my sky. And I'm also going to paint my mountain right now. So using a dab, just a little dab of my red into my blue. It's going to give me like a light purple color that will be like this. So this is the color that I'm using now. And I'm going to add my mountain right here. And the mountain is I'm gonna give it a little bit of shape, like so. Because it's still wet, it makes for an interesting transition between the mountain. Okay, here we go. Now I turn it upside up. And actually, you know what? This is dark enough. Okay, so now I have my mountain, and then I have my sky, and clean my brush because now I'm going to add my my grass. So if I clean my brush and make sure that I wipe it on my paper towel so that it's clean, and using my clean water, I'm gonna wet this portion and paint my grass. I have some nice green that's ready to go right here. Oh, nice green color. Now remember, the watercolor usually dries a little lighter than when you paint it. Now I'm adding a little blue to this because as the grass recedes, it'll be less yellowy. And I'm also adding more water. A little blue. There. I want to make sure I don't leave a line in between the mountain and the grass. No space. So there. Now we have our sky, our mountain, our grass. Now we need to add our tree. And add the tree. Let me see if this is dry or how dry it is. Oh, it's pretty good. So now is the time to take our very technical tool, which is the Saran Wrap, which I refolded actually, and I'm going to dip it into my yellow. Oops, dip it into my yellow, and oh, it's very watery. My yellow is very watery, and I'm going to put my tree right here. Maybe my yellow is a little too watery, but I'm just going to paint it anyway. Now I go higher than the mountain and lower than the horizon line. So I keep going with the tree, like so. So this is a big tree. Okay, so now I've put my yellow. We're going to imagine that the light comes from this direction like this. So this area will not be repainted on top. It will remain yellow. Now I'm dipping into my orange. I want to have too much, but I want to have enough. And add my orange here, like so. A little bit more. Then I'm going to dip into my red. And add the red. Now, this whole section here will not be covered in red, just the bottom part. So, I love the pattern that it creates. Maybe I'll go a little higher. So there. I think now the tree looks pretty good. Maybe a little dab up here. Yep. Okay. So I think my tree is pretty solid now. And I'm going to put my little ball aside and go back to my brushes. And now I'm going to add my little house. The little house will go up here towards close to the horizon line. I'm going to put this aside. I don't need it right now. So my little house, I'm going to paint with a small brush. And I think it's going to be an orange house. Using some of my orange color, I'm going to create the house. So the house will go over here. So it goes on top of the mountain and on top of the land. So first I'm going to indicate the front of the house. It's just a rectangle, small. So this is the front of the house. And I'm going to remove some of this and dip it into the yellow. And I'm going to put the side of the house. Side of the house has a little tip point, like so. And once I have added these two, then I clean my brush completely. Oops. And I'm going to add the roof. Actually, I'm going to use my other brush. I still have my roof color brush. I still have some of the color for the tree trunk. That's the color that we are going to use for the roof. And I'm going to add my roof. So the roof is slanted like this. Top is pretty straight, but it's slanted on this side as well. I think that might be the toughest part of this drawing, this painting. All right, so maybe I'll put the line of the roof like so. Yeah, that's better. Okay, and so now I'm let that dry. While this is drying, I'm going to add my pathway. So this pathway here, it's made by mixing a little bit of my red with a little bit of the roof color. So I'm going to mix a little bit of, I'm going to take a little bit of the roof color. Actually, this brush is too small. I'm going to use this brush to do this. So I'm going to use a little bit of the roof color. I'll put it over here. Just a little bit more. And I'm going to mix this with a bit of the red. Actually, you know what? I need a bit of the orange as well. A little bit of the orange. Mix it in here. Yeah, that's good. So I'm going to make this not too dark. And the color that I get is kind of like a brownish color, like this. And so I'm gonna draw this path. So the path goes from the horizon line and comes around and then goes back down. It's very skinny at the top. And then it comes around. And that's where it starts being a little thicker. Like so. Now, the easel is in the way, so it makes it a little harder. As it comes down here, it needs to be a little wider. Yep. Like so. Okay. So now we have a road that actually is a little too thick here. I'm just going to tease it a little bit. It's a little too thick up here. This is better. Alrighty then. It actually, here there's kind of like a little line here that looks a little funny. So I'm going to go back with my mountain color. And so I'm going to use a bit of the blue. So the mountain color is the blue with the red. But in this case, because it's a mountain that's closer, a little closer, I'm going to add a little bit of this green into it. There, it's better. So it's going to give me this color that's it's kind of a brown color. So I want to add a little bit of this here to kind of add another little mountain element. Far, far away. In the land far, far away. Just adding it here. That works. Okay. Now maybe we can see it here too. Okay. Right. And we also have a bit of a path that goes from the house. But in order to be able to put a path from the house to the road, we need to add the door. So you can use the tree trunk color to add a little door. Just a little door with a little window on either side. Voila. And maybe there's a little window here on the side. Just a little thing. And now I can add the path on the side that goes from the house to the road. And I'm going to add it like this just because I want to make it right. So this is a horizontal line that you need to put there. Like this. All right, so now that we have added this, our tree is probably dry, and we can add the tree trunk, and we can add the tree branches, which is what we're going to do. If you ran out of the color that we made to do the tree trunk, so you can mix blue and orange, and if it's a little too green, add a little red. If you got a nice deep dark brown, you're all set. So in my case, I'm just going to add a little blue because I might run out. A little brown. Yeah, that's good. All right, and I'm going to add my tree. So now this tree trunk, the bottom part, should not be too long because a maple tree is never has a very long tree trunk. Make sure the bottom part has some interesting shape. Then this part just goes to the foliage. Then once you have this, you want to indicate a little bit in between, but not too much. Just to say, oh yeah, I know it's here. But it doesn't need to describe everything. And up here is just a line. Then indicate some branches. Maybe there's one here. And branches in a maple tree, they all point upward. You want to make sure that you do that. Some on the other side as well. So now I have put my branches, and I'm ready to move on to add some other little trees. And I can do that with my tree trunk color. So one is behind the house, maybe over here like this. And the other one is more like in the field right here. This one only, we only see the tree trunk. Maybe a little bit of, and once these are put, then I'm going to use my brush to paint these two little trees here. Using a round brush, and I'm going to use some orange color. I think painting this tree. This tree is very much further away than this one. That's why it's so small. Higher than the house, but it's very small. Well, here's the orange. And now I'm going to add a little red, but not too much here at the bottom. And the other tree, I'm going to use some of the blue mixed with my orange. That'll give me some sort of a more magenta. Ooh, it's too dark. Add water. Better. Well, this is more like a brown color leaves. It's a different kind of tree. Okay. And so one thing that's very important is to have um, the shadow for all of this indicated. So the shadow color should be the same color of the grass plus a little red added to it. So I have this color right here, and I'm going to take a little red into it. Not too much, just a little bit. And then I'm going to indicate my shadow like so. So that's my shadow. Shadow is usually sharp edges close to the object. As it grows away from the object, the usually the shadow goes into a softer edge. I'm adding a little blue to this color to do the shadow over here. And actually, this has got to be dry brush, so I'm drying it a little bit on my paper towel and add a little bit of a shadow here for that tree. And shadow for the other tree. And let's see. We also need to have the trees here behind the house. So I'm using again some of my magenta, or I mean my red, and I'm mixing this red with a little bit of blue. Or you can mix a little bit of tree trunk color. So it's giving some sort of a nondescript magenta color. And I'm drawing it on my paper towel just to rub this here over here like this. And just create like a little rubbing of, maybe there's this kind of little trees behind the house, like so. And with some of my green color, I'm also going to indicate maybe a little bush here, like so. And just a little bit of sometimes you can just paint with the side of the brush. Need some little some of these little blades of grass. Trying to make some green again. So I'm just going to put a few blades of grass here and there. Makes it interesting. And then once you've put these blades of grass, you have to put the shadow for them. Otherwise it won't look good. It won't look believable. It's going to have to put a little bit of more watery color. It goes this way. Alrighty then. Is this dark enough? Not sure. All righty then. So I think we now have our fall scene. Is there any question about this, or that will conclude our class, I think? So this is the fall scene that we painted in our last class. A simple fall scene.